Hello, thanks for tuning in again. So today I want to continue free-flowing about the thing within all, this tool within all that is mapping the territory, that is mapping the map. Let's first just look at the thing we're mapping, the territory we're trying to map. We're trying to map our bodies. We're down the rabbit hole now in, trying to understand the structures of DNA. We're mapping the structures of DNA. We've mapped the body to a point where we can transplant lungs into people. We can transplant into a heart into a beautiful human being that needs a new heart. And that's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal measure of our species. It's phenomenal when you consider what we've come out of. We were once inside a fish head and we rose into a chimp head, and here we are on this day, Homo sapien, trying to move forward, trying to know ourselves in a wholesome way in relation to this beautiful, majestic reality. We're trying to map ourselves into all of that. And from science to philosophy, psychology, psychiatry, holistic thinking, all the holistic healers out there, medicine, doctors, we're trying to know ourselves in such a wholesome way, and it's a phenomenal measure of our species, as I have said. We're trying to climb a mountain. Are we quarter way up? That's debatable. We are trying to climb a mountain, and that's all that's important on this day. What is our true measure? Anyway, we're trying to map the body. And we mapped, let's look at the body. We're starting to understand health now to the degree that, take an athlete, an Olympic athlete. We know what fuels to give that body. We know, to an exact science almost, where we can, the athlete can take him or herself over the line at high speed. And again, that's a phenomenal measure of our understanding of the body and so on. And, we're coming at it in myriad ways, and we're coming at it through the lens of phenomenology. We're trying to lock the phenomenological lens onto the ontological nut so we can know ourselves, so we can align ourselves in a more wholesome way, so we can understand the territory that we are part of. So we're trying to map ourselves onto reality. And like when you consider the development of science and the development of philosophy and the development of language and the development of our understanding in regards all the sciences, all psychology and sociology and empiricism and the physical side of the universe and so on. When you consider it as a monumental field unto itself, you have to consider the thing that's mapping it all. You have to give true gravity, true weight to this amazing tool within all that is starting to map the territory it is part of. It is starting to understand the territory as a complete holistic network, and that's a phenomenal measure again of our endeavors to understand what we are, what we mean to this universe. Do we have a purpose, and so on and so on. We're trying to map it all. We're trying to map it all in a wholesome way so we can all live in a more wholesome way, so we can all find completeness with ourselves in relation to the whole and the universe. So what is this thing within all that is mapping the map, that is capable of mapping the map, that is fit for purpose when it comes to mapping the map, more importantly? It's fit for purpose because, we're mapping, we've mapped molecules and we've mapped cells. We're trying to map the cell, and we're starting to understand by mapping it how complex a single cell actually is. It's monumental. We're starting to understand the magnitude of a cell. And to understand the magnitude of a cell, we have to have the mode of, magnitude built in, or we cannot structure our minds around the magnitude of a cell. To understand the notion of divinity, we have to have the spark of divinity within, and we have to have modes such as scope and scale to grab the magnitude of that notion. And we are fit for purpose. That's why we understand divinity as a complete, wholesome, universal thing, because we can grasp, the magnitude of it, because we understand how to extend and expand into it. We understand the scope and scale of it because we are fit for purpose when it comes to understanding such a glorious, majestic thing. The same applies to the cell. When we want to apply our minds to the cell, we need the modes of extension and expansion to extend and expand into it. We have to open it up, so therefore we have to go down the rabbit hole into the cell. So we need the modes of scope and scale to grasp its magnitude and complexity. We need the mode of complexity to be built in. We need the mode of configuration to be built in, so we can come to understand this configuration, so we can hold figure by it, so we can square up by what it is. So these tools are designed to map the map. And they're fit for purpose, as I've said. And, let's just keep mapping it. Let's just keep mapping how we are mapping the map. Well, one thing about the map, the territory, is that it's dissipating. It persists on the back of a higher metaphysical order. The physical seems to persist on on the back of something that exists, an ontological order that allows the rest by extension to persist and exist for a temporary period of time. And the fact that everything is persisting, everything is dissipating, everything is modifying. We understand that because we have the mode of modification built in. We can extend and expand and run with it. We can take our minds back along the evolutionary tracks of history and come forward with the idea we've been modifying by degree since we were fish, and prior to fish too, but that's because we have an a priori structure and an understanding of time and space, so we can take our minds back along the track and come forward with it. Anyway, the point is we could not look into the territory. We did not have the ability, these modes built in, which allow us to tap the map in such a manner. Nature is dissipating and in motion, and we understand the notion of dissipation. We understand the notion of motion. We can run fluently in our minds, intuitively, with the notion of motion. So, we see cells are dissipating, we see they're in motion, and so on, that they're modifying at all times, so we can run with those notions because we can place our mind, we can extend into all things in this territory and understand their geometry of plays and so on. Okay, we set our minds up around beds of axioms so we can find structure with the world, so we can hold in accordance with a certain amount of structure in the world, so we have a certain enlightened perspective of the world. Again, that takes mapping. The mind has a topological lens, another mode of the mind, which allows us to topologically map ourselves onto this reality, and that is a phenomenal perspective of the mind. And by mapping the mind in this way, we give light to the mind in this way, we give light to the logos, which sees through this systemic lens in this way. So I'm all about mapping that. Anyway, ranting and raving as always. I hope you manage to map your mind onto some of what I've said, and take it into your mind and sit with it, and just realize the phenomenal species that we truly are, because the more we map ourselves, the more we come to realize that. Peace and love and logic.